Ever wonder why your inner voice is such a critic? Like if you are not high functioning enough or fully booked with events or plans with people, and if you're not being creative or ambitious enough, like somehow you're just not enough. Me frickin' too. If you feel the pressure to get everything done and more, if you feel that pressure to get everything done and more and still have a tendency to not feel good enough, well, welcome here. This is a space where we can exist and learn and unlearn together. Join me in this first ever episode of You Don't Have to Earn This, where we'll get to take up space, learn how to recognize that inner critic voice, and figure out how to practically reclaim our inner voice at our own pace. And spoiler alert, everyone has their own pace and their unique process. So, why a podcast? Well, why not? In this day and age where podcasts are so accessible, both to listen to, but also to make, I wondered why not make another one where we could take up space together, learn how to do that in a way that's meaningful and healthy for ourselves, and also, so that perfectionism or the grind or our output and what we have as results in the world can stop identifying our self worth and who we are. We are so much more than just our output or our productivity. Now, let's get into today's episode. It's called You Don't Have to Earn This. Okay. So, let me introduce you to something I call the helper's hustle. Now, a helper is someone that typically identifies as being the helper. When it comes to roles and relationships or dynamics, they might feel more comfortable or they feel like they kind of have to. They might find worth or value in, or like, if I don't do it, who else? So they're constantly in this position. They might even be more comfortable with giving or helping out versus receiving. Now, hustle can mean many different things. There are many connotations, but just for our sake, I guess we can call it like a busyness that feels pressured or forced. So, the helper's hustle is a construct where people that are habitualized in, or find worth or purpose in, or simply identify with the role of helping out and giving to others, they just give and give and give and keep giving with perhaps the invisible and silent hope that someone else will come along and say, "Hey, helper, you're good. You did enough. Good job. Go rest." Where in a lot of cases, helpers don't experience that. They might secretly hope for that and not get that. Or someone might actually come along and say, "Hey, you're good. Rest up." But the helper's hustle will then find itself in a little bit of a conflict, and the helper might find themselves feeling that busyness, feeling that kind of pressure or force of, if I'm not helping, who am I? And push past the rest part. And they might be like, nope, I'm going to keep hustling. I'm going to keep being busy. I'm going to keep helping, even if it comes at a cost to myself. And so, this helper's hustle is the construct that I hope we can explore and talk about, because this podcast is for you. If you find that you identify with that, or if there's someone that is in your circle, someone you love or care about, or that you're associated with that does navigate that too. Another way to see it is the super high functioning, hyper independent, hyper competent person. They are really good at getting things done. They're really good at being helpful, but you kind of wonder, when do they rest, or who do they trust to take care of them? A little bit about me is I come from an immigrant family. My parents were immigrants from Korea. I was born here, but I definitely had a lot of experiences along the way. So, what I would say is the helper's hustle is something that I'm really familiar with. It's what was modeled to me. I saw my parents doing it. And so, in so many ways, it's how we survived. It's how we've gotten to this place that we've gotten to. The problem with the helper's hustle is that in the short term, it can be very doable. It's a survival skill, it gets you where you need to go, it's fine. Now, when it starts seeping into the long term, this is where it can really start to harm our sense of self, our sense of worth, and our ability to really repair with ourselves and with others. And so here we are today trying to really explore what that looks like, to have gratitude for things like I'm really grateful to my parents. At the same time, that can coexist with the fact that, the only model I had was the helper's house. The only model that I had was the helper's hustle. And so it's really hard for me personally to break away from that perfectionism. But that's why we're here. We're here to learn about it and to figure it out and to really trial and error different things and practical tips out to see what really helps us reclaim our voice, our body, ourselves. So, my pitch to you is that this helper's hustle, this exhausting way of being or finding worth or like relating to others, of always giving and never being able to rest or receive ourselves, this does not have to be our only way of being. Again, in the short term, in a survival skill context, we'll keep it in our pocket. I definitely still have it in my pocket. I'm not going to lie. But let's make it so that it does not have to be our default. And when we pull it out, it's something that we're doing on purpose. So that's my pitch. Please stick around and we'll figure this out together. Part one, psychoeducation. This is where we learn and try to learn from a curious posture. We're going to look at the difference between performance based worth and inherent based worth. Performance based worth might sound something like be good, or make me proud, or you better do well or else. Inherent based worth might sound something like be yourself. Help me understand. I don't fully get what you're going through. Or I don't know, but we'll figure it out together. Trust me. So, why do so many of us struggle with performance based worth? Well, before we get into it for today's episode, I do want to pause and name the fact that there are so many factors that go into that question, whether it's cultural, societal, generational, gender, sexual, faith based, or religion constructy stuff, societal, capitalism, or intergenerational. I mean, the words just keep popping out in my head, but there are so many pieces to this. And although today we're not going to address all of them, I still wanted to create a little bit of a buffer space where we get to name those things, because the purpose of acknowledging it and naming it is really so that we can help ourselves not internalize it. We cannot control so many of these things, and yet we are impacted by a lot of them. So by acknowledging it and naming it, even validating how we feel about it, it really helps us to not, caught that. It really helps us to not internalize it to such a point that we start to feel stuck and stuck and stuck, which usually ends up in being helpless or hopeless. And so we're in the business of trying to help ourselves get unstuck. And I'm here with some of the psychoeducation and practical tips to help us figure out the different ways that we can get unstuck. So please do name these things, acknowledge it, and then allow yourself to be like, that does suck. Give yourself a moment. And then you can go on to the next thing. But for today, what we're going to address is the grind and hustle culture that we find ourselves in. And so, this type of culture, whether it is in school or work or even in relationships and in family, it tends to really value efficiency, speed, productivity, tangible results, and quickness. That kind of beat can sometimes create a little bit of like a you might feel your heart starting to race towards it. You see, performance based worth is faster and it's visible and tangible and very results based, which can help us feel more confident or in control. And so there's a reason why so many of us have opted for it, or it's been a way of coping or navigating life in survival mode, especially. But one of the tricks that it does is that it convinces us that our value or the whole of our lives are equivalent to only the milestone markers, only the achievements, only the results. And it really doesn't pay any mind to all the in between mundane day to day life moments that we experience. Now, inherent based worth, it is slower, and I like to use the word invisible. You can put in the same amount of mental energy, heart energy, emotional energy, physical energy, but you might not get buff immediately. You might not get a raise or a promotion immediately, or get that job or get that grade immediately, because inherent based worth, it allows the process to actually have a lot more value, right? How you navigate something, how you understand what you're doing, that is kind of where all the meat is when it comes to inherent based worth. It has more to do with the journey without requiring the affirmation of a tangible result. And I'm not saying that tangible markers or results are bad. Okay, definitely not. But when they are the primary reason we do things, they tend to become the primary way, and then eventually the only way we find worth in ourselves, the only way we feel good about ourselves. And then again, the only way that we feel able to give ourselves permission to rest or to take a break or to ask for help or to say we don't know and that we're confused. But when they are the primary reason that we do things or don't do things, they tend to become the only reason, the only thing that can invalidate us or validate us. And to have to produce and to be productive, to be fast, to be always set on the next tangible goal, to feel good about yourself, to give yourself permission to have fun, to do something that inspires you, to take a break, to rest. Now, that is the unsustainable piece. It's just not possible in the long term. Our nervous systems are built to kick into high gear as needed, but that's the key word, as needed. That means that it's also expecting, or it's built in such a way where it's supposed to also come back down. It's supposed to also assess and look at everything. And then when things are okay, be like, all right, I'm going to come back down and relax now. Very similar to our bodies and why we need to go to bed at night. Otherwise, that's when more trauma like symptoms or depressive symptoms or anxiety symptoms can start to feel more chronic or overwhelming. We need to unlearn performance based worth that says only giving, only helping, and the hustle and grind are what defines us and gives us worth. And we need to start learning what it looks like to have inherent based worth that says you are enough right now, this second. And you can choose to do more. You can choose to help. You can also choose to say no or say, I think that's enough. That's all I can do. But you don't have to earn your rest, and you do not have to earn your spot or your space in this world. You deserve those things. You are enough. The good news is that we can. And I have been on my own journey, right, of unlearning and learning and healing and grieving and hoping and all of the things in between. And I'm still in it. And so, this is my pitch to you to say if it's something that you're exploring or you're intrigued by, or you're also in a place of hurt and you want to see, like, what else is there, please join me and see. Try some of these things out and we'll see what really fits you. Part 2, practical exercises and tips, with a little asterisk to remind yourself that there's always room to tailor this more to you. Okay, first, we kind of hype ourselves. We have to remember that we can unlearn and learn. It is a nonlinear process, and if that's annoying, that's fine. We can say it's annoying and outlet that for sure. But first, believing and hyping ourselves up that we can do this, we can grow, that's essential. So if you're having a hard time with that right now, please hear me in saying, I know that you can unlearn and learn and grow, because I have seen it. I have done it in my own version. So I'm convinced that you can in your own version as well. Step 1, acknowledge the problem. So, this is a really popular exercise, and the goal of it is to disidentify ourselves and our identity with the problem. Now, we are not shirking responsibility or trying to blame someone else, but the goal of it is to identify and label the pattern or the behavior or the habit, the self talk, even as something that is changeable. We're trying to frame it in a way to say, oh, if this is not my identity, if I am not only my habit, that means I can change my habit. It's something that I can actually peel off of my characteristics, or I can peel off of my habits if I really work towards that. So, so an example of this is perhaps the self talk of, if I don't finish that task, I cannot take a break. Or if I don't finish my homework or if I don't finish that task, I cannot watch another episode of that show that I've been dying to watch. You see, we're not here just trying to add different tools and make you change habits cold turkey. All we're doing is identifying, we're acknowledging it, we're bringing attention to the fact that, this self talk is happening. And I am really critical. That inner voice is being really critical of me, and that's impacting me. By acknowledging it, we're shifting our posture from judging ourselves to being curious, being like, I keep not being able to watch that show, even though I want to. This thought keeps coming up. Why is it happening? And we want to create this healthy curiosity that allows us to question some of those thoughts that make us feel really not good about ourselves. Step two, name the problem. Okay, give it a name. Here, we're just further externalizing it so that we can emphasize to ourselves, to our brain, even that, hey, that thought is not who I am. And that starts to make this thing, this thought, a peel offable thing. You can name it anything. It could be anxiety, it could be depression, it could be trauma. Something I like to do is give it like a silly name, right? So perhaps not someone that you know, unless you keep it under wraps for yourself. But for our sake, I'll just say James, right? I'm going to name my thought James. So using our example from step one, now we're going to add his name in. James says, if I don't finish this task, I can't take a break. James is telling me that if I don't finish this task, if I don't finish my homework, I cannot watch that show that I've been dying to watch. And so now we're able to see this inner critic voice as separate from ourselves. The naming helps with familiarity and muscle memory. We're basically demystifying what negative self talk is by giving it a name and calling it out each time it happens. We're not necessarily fighting it each time, but every time it pops up, now we're calling it and we're like, hey, that sounds like James again. Or hey, that sounds like anxiety again. And we're becoming familiar with that. Step three, choose a baby step. And here we're really distinguishing what James wants you to do versus what you are choosing to do. We're really trying to empower your sense of agency and remind you that even if that inner critic voice, for me, James, even if James is so loud, I can still pick, I can still choose what I want to do. And even if it might not be a humongous thing, I'm going to choose to eat cereal. I'm going to choose to drink water when I can drink water. I'm going to choose what I wear today or what kind of lipstick or makeup I put on today. And all of those small baby steps, they really empower us and remind us that we actually have more agency. And it all does help in the long term. Now, I do want to ask you to frame this as experimental. You're really experimenting to see what kind of baby steps are doable physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, connection wise with others. You're exploring and you're trying to see what is feasible, what is doable, what feels life giving versus what actually triggers perfectionism in me. And so please frame this baby step process as an experiment where we get to gather more information, we get to be curious and learn more about you in this season. My biggest emphasis that comes to my mind when I think about baby steps is I really want you to make them small. They need to be baby steps. If they're not doable and they don't feel doable, they're likely not a baby step. So, for example, if cleaning your room is your baby step, I'm going to say it's not. Yeah. I'm going to say perhaps cleaning parts of your room can be, if you divvy it up. Cleaning the trash from your room, that could be a baby step. Bringing in a trash bag and labeling it trash, that's a baby step. But your whole room, I would say that's a lot of steps in one. And so if you are having a hard time breaking down some of those tasks, it's a great thing to bring up with your therapist. It's a great thing to Google. And it could also be something that you email me and we can try to figure out something together. There's always an option. As you do these 3 steps, if you find that inner critic voice popping up again, my version is James for this example. If James pops up again saying, you didn't do good enough, or hey, you should be doing more, you picked up a piece of granola bar wrapper, what about the dish in your room? And all these thoughts start to come up. I want to ask you to acknowledge him again. Just talk to him. Be like, James, I hear you, but not today. And just swoosh him away like that. By acknowledging him and acknowledging that inner critic voice, you're also allowing your brain to stop pressuring yourself to remember it. It'll allow your brain to put it on the shelf of your mind versus if you just try to suppress it or ignore it, it becomes the thing that you think about, right? It's kind of like if I were to say, hey, don't think about red cars, you're likely you imagined a red car. If you didn't, that's interesting. But if you did, it's just very normal for that to happen. And so, using the red car theory, we want to acknowledge and validate versus suppress and ignore. So, in summary, our 3 steps are: 1, acknowledge it; 2, name it; and 3, choose a baby step. We are basically recalibrating and rewiring your relationship to the hustle and to performance based worth, both cognitively, but also practically, because you deserve inherent based worth. You are enough. And though this process of unlearning and learning can be a lot sometimes, I want to let you know so many of us are doing it and you have a community. Part 3, invitation. So here's your invitation this week. And little asterisk again to say, please note this is not homework and this is not a challenge. This is honestly really just a human, me, inviting you, human, to be human. So yes, it is a little cheesy there, but I really mean it. And hopefully you laughed. That's my goal. So this is the invitation. You're invited to take a moment for yourself and pause. We're going to do 3 inhales, holding the breath, and then exhales. Okay, first one. Okay. Exhale. Another time, inhale. Hold it. Exhale. One more. Inhale. Hold it. Exhale. This moment was yours. You took it back from performance, from productivity, and from the hustle. This moment was yours, and you reclaimed it from the empire of the hustle and capitalism and performance based worth. So breathe. You're doing it. You really are, and you're not alone. I'm with you too. Thanks for joining me today on You Don't Have to Earn This. And if this resonated with you, then yes, I'm so glad you are here. And I hope that you continue to exhale because you deserve that. You can also review, rate, and subscribe so that this podcast can reach other brilliant and kind souls that also deserve to be proud, to exist, and to be and to exhale. All of those good things that we talked about today. Until next time, please take care of yourself like you would a friend. And remember, you don't have to earn this. You never did.